we're beyond simple racism in America. Like, it manifests in more multivariate ways now, I would say. So I don't even like this claim of like it's more, it comes from more like this nationalist, this ultra nationalist perspective, which will bleed into racism a lot, but it's not the same driver that it used to be, where like 20, 30 years ago when they were talking about thugs and rappers on Fox News, it was just racism. But now it's like, it's taken on a more sophisticated form. And it's not enough to just call somebody racist. Or even deal, I think, with, yeah.
Still remains, but if you talk to those people, they don't think that they're racist or sexist at all, right? And so I know that
most racists don't though.
Yeah. So look, I've seen guys who say, "No, I'm not racist. I had a black person in the house the other day, and I even let him use the bathroom."
Exactly.
Like, that's so like that way of thinking is so racist, and you don't know it, brother, right? So like, I got it, right? But now there's a whole heap of people that were just pushed out.
Wait, so what? You just like contradict your own
Democratic Party? They hate the establishment. Democratic became more established, but they hate us on the culture wars. And on the culture wars, it gets super messy because part of the reaction to what happened with MAGA and making America great again, to your point, Mark, is that there was this feeling of, oh no, we're going to lose power. Now, that doesn't consciously come out as that guy saying, I'm afraid black people are going and brown people are going to take over. That's why I'm supporting white supremacy and et cetera. They don't say that, right?
But that's where a lot of this stems from.
We're going to lose power. Now, that doesn't consciously come out as that guy saying, I'm afraid black people are going and brown people are going to take over. That's why I'm supporting white supremacy and et cetera. They don't say that, right? But there's cultural movements. So the cultural movement of white America was like, uh-oh, we're getting over the edge here. We're about to lose the majority. And then we're in a world of hurt, right? And you have this instinctual cultural reaction. And that's kind of what you sense with the beginning of MAGA, right? And then, by the way, but let's be fair, our side, I think, and we can debate this too, I think we went too far. And so we went so maximalist that we lost the majority of Americans. And so Republicans, when they started saying identity politics, that was a trick in the beginning because what's the Southern strategy? Identity politics, right? They started
just for my audience understand, when you say we went too far, what would be an example of going too far?
Yeah. Let's say.
Oh, I don't like this guy. I don't trust him because of his Israel-Palestine takes. But it's such a good ask for examples. Always ask. Please, more people in media, whoever listening to me right now, please, Pac-Man O'Brien or anybody that's secret listening, please always ask for examples. Always ask for examples and policies. Ask for examples always. It's so important. Please. It's so good to do this, to ground out the conversation so we're not just yapping random fucking theory.
You said we went too far. What would be an example of going too far?
Yeah. Let's take a couple of things, right? So I'm 100% in favor of trans rights. Every show I go on, and at that event, I knew it was a little risky, but I asked them to say, look, trans people are American citizens, and they should get 100% the same constitutional rights as we do. And most of the time they agree, so that's great, right?
What a stupid fucking... What do you mean, get the same constitutional rights as we do? Like, arguably, black people pre-civil rights had the same constitutional right. Like, I mean, the Constitution technically applies to everybody. Like, that's such an empty, hollow, pointless... God, what is... like...
That crowd was a little bit more mixed. It was about 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 agreeing, 1/3, right? And so, but on our end, when we say trans people must play in professional sports, right? The league shouldn't have a choice. But wait a minute, that's not where the American people are. And I don't even agree with that. And so,
yeah, wait. That's not where the American people are. You don't agree with that. So who the fuck is the one making this such a huge issue? This was obsessed about by conservatives. It was conservatives. How many conservatives made more commercials about trans people than fucking Kamala's campaign did? I don't know if they made any commercials about trans people. What the fuck?
So, and then people look at that and go, okay, wait, now you're...
Do you feel like that's a dominant issue of our side of the left?
Thank you.
No, there's two things that happen there, Mark. So the right attacks first. Let's be clear about that, right? They, like, trans people are minding their business. Now, maybe culturally, they're becoming more and more dominant. Our side is becoming more and more dominant, and it's starting to grate on the right wing, etc. But then the right wing passes laws, right? Saying, hey, this against trans people, that against trans people.
Right, that's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. It's like that's a right wing issue. That's a solution in search of a problem. The right started making up all these laws and rules. It's like, oh my God, as if the left as if that were a priority issue for the left. And then the left speaks a little bit about it, but I don't. And then it becomes, oh, the left has gone too far. They're out of control. It's like, well, no, the right is doing that. It seems like you're almost echoing that right wing talking point.
So look, here's the example I use. So as I said at the Amfest event, I'm what they would consider extreme left on gun control, right? So I don't think guns should even be allowed in the house.
Guns are not a hot topic issue right now. Nobody, I'm sorry, but nobody gives a fuck about guns right now in the United States. I don't even know if immigration is, like, the border is a hot topic issue right now. Like, it's still kind of like pulsing in the background, but like the American public just moves on from issues very fast, and guns are just not at the forefront of the American mind at the moment. It's just not a big thing. Like, no one cares. Like, bring up something more controversial right now. Stuff related to, I would say, like, Ukraine-Russia stuff still seems to be like pulsing in the American mind, throbbing in the American mind. I would say the stuff related to cabinet picks is amorphous or nebulous. So that can kind of be like Elon Musk and Doge. I think this stuff is kind of like more ever present. But guns, how long is, like, Stuff related to like the wall, stuff related to building the wall, I think is more like pressing in American minds. Immigration was the number one issue for Americans during the election. Dog, that was 2 months ago. I'm sorry, but that's like lifetimes in terms of news cycles.
If you have a gun in the house, you are much more likely to die from the gun. Okay, but I know that my position cannot pass. Right, I'm going to have to convince people a lot more before I could begin to defend that position in a way that's logical. Like I can defend it all day long, but I defend it in terms of running on that or engaging in that fight. Right. Yeah. So on the trans issues, the right wing is the one that baited us, right? They tried to, banning trans people in the military. That wasn't that popular. They tried bathrooms. That wasn't that popular. Going after their core constitutional rights wasn't popular at all. And then, so they went all the way to the outer edge, trying to find a place where we'll fall into their trap. So that's where we ran into professional sports, some of the terminology we were using, birthing people, etc. And then gender reassignment surgery, pre-18 years old. These are very unpopular positions.
How did Anna wear down Cenk? I feel like Anna started to convert earlier, and I feel like Cenk was a really good check on her. And now it feels like Cenk is adopted. Like that was watching Anna fight with people who called her birthing person. That's where that came from, that talking point. I don't understand how she was able to convert him.
And then gender reassignment surgery, pre-18 years old. These are very unpopular positions. I don't happen to agree with any of those positions, as it turns out.
Yeah, and like nobody on the left does. These are like very slim minority positions.
But even if I did,
but also not dominant. I just want to be clear, they're also not our dominant positions. Most people aren't. So even as we say it right now, it sounds as if the left is going too far and the right is just being more reasonable. When the left isn't saying this stuff.
Yeah, in general, you even identified it.
Art, that's the key. So when the right wing came in and attacked on those issues, and they went further and further out. There's a line where I would have drawn the line, even if I held those positions and said, look, guys, we're not going to win on those. I would say to the right wing or to anyone, make it super clear, we're not going to win on those issues. We got more work to do in convincing the American people to be on our side. But there's no point in debating it because we're not arguing it, right? But we didn't do that. And then when you get to the left, again, the left is not a monolith. The left is gigantic and has
22. What did he say initially on this?
I'm going to have to convince people a lot more before I could begin to defend that position in a way that's logical. Like I can defend it all day long, but I defend it in terms of running on that or engaging in that fight, right? Yeah. So on the trans issues, the right wing is the one that baited us, right? They tried to, banning trans people in the military. That wasn't that popular. They tried bathrooms. That wasn't that popular. Going on that or engaging in that position in a way that's logical. Like I can defend it all day long, but I defend it in terms of running on that or engaging in that fight, right? Yeah. So on the trans issues,
like nobody ran on whatever. Okay.
Again, the left is not a monolith. The left is gigantic and has a lot of different parts of it. But in this case, a lot of left-wing activists online were like, no, we fight and we die on this hill. Because if you give 1 inch, that means you're surrendering. And no, we always go maximalist. And so you could tell in the reaction mark, because when Anna and I said, yeah, we don't agree with those, for example, those 3 things, right?
I think, again, though, you have to keep in mind, like I maybe would have, I think I've even given the kind of this take from Cenk before. The thing you have to keep in mind is that even if you win that fight, I said this before, I think the example is you're going into the Coliseum with a shield and the other person has a sword, and you winning that fight is successfully deflecting the attack. But that's it. You haven't gained anything. It's not like conservatives like, oh, well, or independents like, well, Democrats aren't actually defending that position. Maybe I'm going to go side with them. It's just every swing of a sword is an opportunity to lose a chunk of skin or to lose some voter. You're not actually gaining or winning there. You have to be on the attack more as Democrats. Again, it shouldn't be like, why or how do we stop ourselves from playing into their hands? You should force the Republicans to think like, fuck, how do we stop ourselves from playing into their hands? But we're not on the offense about anything because everybody on the left hates everything, even the things that the left has done. I said before, it was sad that like Americans can't take credit for what I would consider to be a wonderful achievement of globalism and capitalism and American ingenuity, which I would say were the mRNA vaccines. Fuck you, Germans. Like we can't take credit for that because everybody hates either capitalism on the left or vaccines on the right. And I was like, oh, well, fuck us. And on the left, like the ACA did some wonderful things for the United States, but you can't take credit for that on the left. What are you going to, like, the most you can do is this tepid, like, well, we had the ACA and it didn't go far enough. Like, you can't take credit for fucking anything. Donald Trump will sit here and say that he solved world politics and then in the next breath talk about how horrible his own trade agreement is without mentioning that it's his trade agreement with Mexico and Canada. And like, you can't win. You can't win on the defense like this. The most you can do is survive. And that's not good enough.
People said, no, you're a right winger, you're a traitor. Some said Nazi, etc. And well, that's not productive or helpful at all. And so then it became, oh my God, the left is digging in even more on this position. And I'm like, get out of the room. That this is not helpful, not only to forget the Democratic Party, it's not helpful to trans people because you're now walking backwards and you're endangering them more. And here we are, we're back to now debating bathrooms because we lost so badly on that issue when we didn't need to be in that fight at all. Stop falling.
Yeah, but who's challenged you to that fight?
Into their traps. And I give you the gun example because I want to show you guys. Me too, right? Like, it's not like I wouldn't do it with my own positions. Yeah, I'll give you another example about my own identity, like Muslims, right? And this one's absurd because nobody asked for this law or anything, but I use it as an extreme example of like what if I had done this, right? So I would protect Muslims, Americans, and our rights 100%. There's no negotiation over this whole deporting, denaturalizing nonsense. We'll fight it 200%. Fight the Muslim man 200%. There's a brother up in Minnesota a while back, and he sued the grocery store that he was working at because he said I shouldn't have to handle bacon and pork at the checkout. And I was like, no, brother, that's your job. Okay. If you got those concerns, go take another job. Right. And if we had, let's say, dug in on that position, again, I grant we didn't, that was not a big political issue. But if we had dug in and said, no, maximalist, that's it. Muslims should be allowed to work in the grocery store and not do this, we would have lost. And I would have said, no, don't do that.
Like, think about this. God, I hope that Mark has this example. Think about what he just said. Should a Muslim grocer be allowed to reject his workplace because they were dealing with pork? Now, I don't remember the outcome, so let me check the outcome. But I remember, this was 10 years ago, was it? Remember the huge fight with Hobby Lobby? Christians, I think, were trying to argue that it should be okay for the health insurance to not cover any form of contraception, I think. Or maybe even birth, yeah. In the devastating Burwell v. Hobby Lobby ruling on June 30th, 2014, the U.S. Supreme Court allowed certain bosses to block their employees' access to birth control. The decision of the Supreme Court birth control case applied to more than half of all U.S. workers. People wanted to block basically the healthcare coverage from being able to cover birth control. How is it that we have to run like crazy from a Muslim? And also, I don't even know if I think fuck the Muslim dude. He should have to handle pork. But why is it that in our side, we've got to run like crazy from that? But Republicans are like, healthcare covering healthcare? Excuse me. We're going to die on this fucking hill all the way up to the Supreme Court. Again, look at the uneven playing field. Like, this is insane.
Rights backwards, and I don't want you to walk my rights backwards. Do you see
I got you, but you're taking things that didn't happen and using them as examples to justify something that did happen. You're taking hypothetical counterfactuals, and saying, well, yeah, if we had done this, this would be exactly why. This would exactly prove the right point. But things didn't happen. But let me just take a step back, because
no, I'm just saying that even if it affects me, I still have the right. Like, I still have the same strategies. My point. That's all.
For sure. So I guess part of what there are a few things you said that I think are really interesting. One is both sides are against the establishment, right? These two. I think the challenge is that argument presumes that the establishment is something other than right wing. We have two right wing parties that are fighting each other. Now, I'm not pretending the Democrats and Republicans are exactly the same. I'm not pretending that the Green Party and the Libertarians are exactly the same. But these are two right wing parties. And so when you say, well, they both want to fight against the establishment, I think you might be right. They both in their minds want to do that. That's true. Similarly, they both hate mainstream media, right? But and they clapped when you said that. But the difference is, when they say mainstream media, they're thinking CNN and MSNBC. They don't see OANN as establishment media or mainstream media. They don't see News Nation as establishment media or mainstream media. So you two aren't talking about the same thing. So even if you're using the same language, you two have very different ideas about what the establishment is. That crowd in that room, if you told them to get rid of establishment media, they'd be okay with Fox News living. While you and I both know that Fox News is establishment media. It's just the ultra right part of it. I'm saying that to say that just because those people in that room say we want to get rid of the establishment, we want to tear down the establishment, they don't want to tear down right wing anything. They want to tear down the parts of the establishment that allow you and I to exist and allow the most vulnerable people in this country to be safe. So to me, it doesn't feel like a fair or good faith argument to say.
And you know what I just realized? I feel like Republicans have gotten more credit for the ACA than the Democrats have, because Trump talks about, like, I want to keep pre-existing conditions. We improved the ACA. We what the fuck?
Well, it's okay for us to come together. It's okay for me to be on stage with them. It's okay for me to be in this space because we both want to get rid of the establishment. No, y'all don't. Not the same way.
Yeah, Mark, I understand what you're saying, and I agree in part, but I largely disagree. So let me break it down. So do they mean mainstream media and establishment politicians, including their own side? Yes, they definitely do. Do they mean Fox News? No, they don't. You're right about that.
Who are the establishment politicians left on the Republican side? Most of them are MAGA.
Right? So, but that doesn't, but what I say, first of all, we're not going to get everything we want right out of the gate, right? We're not going to come in and go, hey, we'd like to tear down Fox News, and they're going to go, yeah, of course.
Oh, we're not going to get everything we want right out of the gate. Okay, so when it comes time to dealing with Republicans, all of a sudden incrementalism is the rule. But when it came time to dealing with Democrats, 100% pull out of Gaza right now. No more support for Israel, or else fuck you, you're a genocider. Okay, also, by the way, notice how we completely stopped giving a fucking shit at all about that issue. So if you're some fucking Arab in Dearborn, okay, rope, okay, because nobody gives a fuck about you. Nobody gives a fuck about your dying people in Palestine. Nobody ever gave a fuck about it. So if you thought you had some huge fucking W for having Kamala lose, that's just on you, Chief. Although it's not actually on you, because you're not from any of those regions, and you probably like 52 generations removed from anybody that is. But just as a thing, notice how nobody in the left anymore is talking about any fucking Israel-Gaza shit, because who cares now?
Of course not, right? So, but what I do say is, hey, we hate mainstream media.
Sorry, optics. Let me, I'll temper that statement. Don't post that one.
Yes, agreement. And I said, look, and this happens. So Democrats and Republicans play good cop, bad cop, but they're actually the uniparty. Republicans go, yay, totally agree, right? So by the way, that's a giant agreement. I mean, we're just rushing past an enormous agreement. And then we get to mainstream media, and I go, MSNBC and Fox News play good cop, bad cop. Now, that's the first time they've ever heard that, right? Because they think they've been told their whole lives, Fox News, right-wing media in general, good guys, MSNBC, bad guys, right?
Absolutely.
But remember, our own voters, Democratic voters, think the same way, right? So you find a 74-year-old person watching MSNBC morning show every morning. She thinks MSNBC is the good guys and Fox News is the bad guys. No, it's good cop, bad cop. They're both the bad guys, okay? And so that's something we have to introduce to our voters and to their voters. So by having those conversations, I am in a lot of ways introducing that thought to them for the first time. And that's part of why mainstream media banned me in the first place. I'm banned on CNN and MSNBC because I think and Fox News. I think they got the sense, oh, this guy's going to convince our audience that we're not here to help them. And that's true. They're not here to help them, right? But since the right wing already did a revolt against their establishment, they're actually more open to that idea. And sometimes they'll even criticize Fox News, probably for all the wrong reasons. So there's a lot of work to be done there, but it's not. No, they're totally disingenuous and they don't mean it at all. Look,
this is the fuck. We got to do just World War II history. Fuck. I will schedule this. I'll figure out how I want to stream this fucking educational shit. I feel like this is like 100. It has to be like perfectly mapping on to the pre-Nazi Germany shit with the commies and the Nazis like eyeing each other as like friendlies. Like, oh no, like we agree probably most of the way. Like, nah, yeah, they're on some crazy like racial superiority, ultranationalist, like authoritarian shit. But nah, that's like not like we agree on like the important things, which is like taking down the liberals. Like this has to be like a literal 1-to-1 fucking map of what the fuck. Like Jesus, that's he's not a commie. Well, he's not a commie, but he's illiberal. That's the important thing. He's anti-liberal. They're opposed to in the pre-Nazi Germany example would have been the SPD, I think. Right, was what they were called. And then today it's just like I guess like center left. Okay. All right. Listen, I love you. Be careful. Don't die. I will hopefully get through this tomorrow. And maybe this and this and that. Don't die. Be careful. I love you.